to do. So let's look here. We've got kind of our map. Oh, and actually, this actually shows us some of what the temperature kind of looks like um, in the winter months, where the coldest places in the I don't know. Oh no, I do want Reddit. Um, so if we look at this, I feel like we can. Okay, so if you look at this, this is from the USDA. So this is actually a pretty correct map. Where you see the redder, okay, the darker red colors, this is the warmer colors. And then and the cooler colors, blue, purple, and white, those are the coldest ones. So if you look, right here's Idaho, okay? Right here's Montana. Here is North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Washington, or Wisconsin. And even, I mean, if you look near Washington, they get a lot of warmth from the ocean. The ocean currents actually create a lot of warmth around the United States. That's why all of California and Washington is so warm and so dry, is because they have the ocean to help keep them warm. So if you look in Idaho, they were pretty warm, the Nimipu, but they have traveled over the mountains. So here's the mountains. You can see this darker, warmer patch. Okay, this is the mountains, and they crossed over the mountains, and they're over here in Crow. What is it? Not Little Crow, Crow territory. And what's starting to happen is it's starting to get really cold, and Minnesota, North Dakota, and Montana and Wisconsin, Native Americans were really tough because not a lot grows in these areas in the wintertime. Food is super hard to get. So this is what the Nimipu are going to start running into, is this lack of food and lack of being able to find food. Okay, so that's going to be our biggest problem that they're going to start running into. And most people actually die from starvation in the wintertime, not from being cold, but being frozen, or sorry, but from starving. Okay, so ooh, nope, I didn't want that. So we've already done a whole bunch of these. So ooh, we've got a new word. Let's put in our vocabulary journal, surrender. I gotta find this one. Okay, so here we go. So I've got the word surrender, surrender, surrender. And it means to give up. Mm-hmm. Or to give in to demands, because I would say that's more correct of what we have here. So to give in to demands. So like give up their ponies or give up their weapons, or sorry, I should say firearms. Another word so some synonyms are to give up, or you might have this word yield or concede. Mm-hmm. Poor Ellie. Yeah, don't worry about how many times she shows up. She's just trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, so go ahead and add surrender. Mm-hmm. So, man, we're going to see, has Chief Joseph surrendered yet? I believe he has, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are going to help me more. I was not a responsible teacher, and I actually did not read the three chapters. So that's why I'm going to depend on you guys to help me. I'll end up catching up today, but whew, I forgot. I actually went and I graded all of your stuff. I was busy grading yesterday, so I did not get to um, reading. So I'm going to have your help. Man, yeah, we had some main events that happened here. We had a lot of leaders die. So Okalat, Tulhul Solte, and Lean Elk. Those were the um, main things. So we had people surrender. I'm gonna put this to the side because I'm gonna continue on a little bit. Oh, what do you mean I signed out? I didn't sign out. Give me a second. I just don't.
When they say a moon, does that mean a month or like just night?
One moon. So one full moon is a month.
Month.
Actually, let me think. Where do you remember where that says that? What page?
I think she's like, my sister has been here for like 9 moons.
Okay, so 9 moons means 9 months.
She said my sister has been here for 4 moons, and I thought she might not get to see another moon.
Yeah, so that means
it's
4 nights. Yep. So if you think of one full moon or two, like one full moon, because a full moon, we base our months off of how many times, like the full moon comes.
I always thought it was days.
Yeah, so each night moon is just, if that makes sense. So
It doesn't make sense to be days because then she'd be alive for 4 days.
yeah. Well, they might say it either way. Let's look. We actually wrote that up here, right? We said how many moons? Oh. So if they say moons is a measurement of weeks, or months. So maybe it was it might have been, I would assume maybe it was 3 weeks then. And if they say suns, that's probably 1 day. So we actually did write about it. Does that help you out, Riley? So it was probably maybe weeks. I don't think quite months. Okay, so we've got this word to surrender. Okay, and I kind of want to know, you guys, what did I write conflict wrong? On my very first one? Conflict. Oh. Okay, so I want to know, ladies and gentlemen, why, I want to know both sides because we're going to review and then we're going to start reading. What argument? So why do people not want to surrender? What are some reasons that people do not want to surrender during this? Harper.
Because
he said, let me find where it is. Looking Glass said he would never surrender. He said that he's older than you, and he knows the white generals better, and he knows that it's better to be dead than to surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And Whitebird says that Looking Glass is right, but that he can surrender,
mm-hmm.
but he'll take those who'd rather die and go to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And then people started yelling over different sides of what they thought it was right.
Yeah, and I think these are in chapter 16. Is that where we start talking about?
This was what I just talked about.
That was in chapter 19.
19? Okay.
In chapter 19, yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. So, yeah, and actually, to let you know, even when we're looking at Minnesota history, we just got done with the Dakota-Minnesota War in 6th grade. So if you ask your students, or if you've got any siblings that are in 6th grade, and you ask, who is Little Crow? they're going to be actually Little Crow, who is a Dakota. So when they started the war, he's very much like Chief Joseph, and he said he didn't want to go to war. But Native Americans, they have this idea that if they don't go to war, that they're showing cowardness, that they're being a coward, and they're not protecting their family and their tribe. And so Looking Glass and Whitebird, they think that they're being cowardly if they don't go to war. Riley or Brielle, did you want to add on to it?
Yes. Also, when they don't want to surrender because it makes them look weak,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
like a coward.
And that's actually something that I very much look at when we do talk about Little Crow in 6th grade, is he literally says, fine, I will go with you. I am not a coward. Like there's an actual quote of him saying that. Okay. So then we found some reasons why not, but why does Chief Joseph say that, man, we have to surrender? And then tell me what finally causes him to surrender? What makes him actually surrender?
It's because they don't want to feel weak, and they don't want to feel like the whites are stronger than them and that the whites can beat them. But they have more, the whites, more of them come, so that's why they're scared.
Of a river.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got, let's see, Sienna, what did you want to add to it?
Chief Joseph says that they should surrender and they've been beaten and more will come, more than what their warriors and what they have. But the other people, their warriors, think that if they surrender, they're just going to be not protecting their people or not their family, or just not showing their leaderness in them.
Yeah, so they have this mindset of what protecting their family means, right? Greta, did you want to add to it?
In page 104, it's kind of Chief Joseph is kind of saying that even he said before that the white people are kind of like the sands of the ocean, that they'll just keep defeating them, but more will still come. And then he says that that he doesn't think that they'll be able to fight all the blue coats because there's too many of them.
Yeah. You guys, I think we should add this belief to our page 18, 18B. So if you had a post-it note because you didn't have any more room, perfect. Or you needed to add more here. I don't have a lot of room either. So actually, I'm going to add another page. Add a page. So maybe you have a post-it or something. Let's say we've got the Chiefs are deciding if they should surrender. And we've got Chief Joseph that is saying, and actually I've got on page 104. I've got page 104. I would use okay, so Ellie, just write this on a piece of paper for now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if for some reason you lost this in your notability, I hope you let me know that you needed it, because I can go find the one that you turned in and send it to you. Okay, so if you wrote this in notability and not in your notebook, I hope you sent me a message. Yes, Brielle?
I was just testing something.
Okay, so the Chiefs are trying to decide if they should surrender. And his quote doesn't specifically say him, but it says, "The time had come to surrender. And actually, this might be, they said, my father had said that they were beaten. The time had come to surrender. The time had come to surrender. Now, again, this was difficult because it was this idea of protecting his family, right? Okay, yeah, if you're a notability, if you have yours in notability, beautiful. If you have yours on the piece of paper, beautiful. Okay. And you know what? Did we figure out what point of view little Sound of Running Feet had? Was she ready to surrender or no? Did it say?
She didn't want to surrender because she said, I will not join them by putting my rifle down, even if my father is, even if my sister and that stuff is.
Okay, so you know what? I think we should copy this. And I think we should add it to Sound of Running Feet too. I'm just going to actually put the exact same thing. Because, oh no. Did I lose something? I think I lost something. Oh, it just moved. Okay, so I'm going to add the same thing but I'm going to say it a little bit. So they're talking about, copy. What happened to this? He wants to protect his family. He wants to protect his family. Because I think this might be a good compare and contrast later. So they both want to protect their family. So their reasoning is the same, but their initial ideas are different. Sienna, did you have something you want to add?
I was looking back at the page, and right after Sound of Running Feet said, my father said that we were beaten, time had come to surrender. So she also said some of the warriors wanted to charge the bluecoats. They said the bluecoats were bad fighters. We might whip them and be free too. So they thought that it would be like an easy battle to just go and take the bluecoats.
Yeah, take them out, right? Do we know where the quote was from Sound of Running Feet? Where she said, I would still take down, or I would still take up my rifle. Yeah, but man, it's hard to see that they're going to quickly win. Here, I'll put this back up here for Chief Joseph. So I put, chiefs are deciding if they should surrender, and then I'm going to write, she wants to protect her family down below. And then let's see, can I figure out, do we know where it says that, again, she said we will still go? I will still fight? Or what page that is? It's hard when we've got like a whole bunch of pages, right?
So are we writing that my father said we were beaten, the time had come to surrender on the Sound of Running Feet?
I think she has a different one because she didn't want to surrender, right? Somebody said that she had said she would still take her rifle. Yeah, that's where I'm trying to find the quote. But her idea is that she still wants to protect her family, right? So this might be a good, I have a feel, because you're going to have to compare and contrast things. So I have a feeling you might have to compare Sound of Running Feet and Chief Joseph. And this might be a good comparison because they both want to like protect their family, but in different ways.
As she wants to protect she family.
Oh, her family. Huh. Thank you. But first,
I think the page was 107.
107?
Yeah.
I could not join them. I could not join them. So, yeah. So, yeah, we'll do page 107. Why are you being weird, Notability? So, yeah, she says, I will not join them. This is on page 107. Okay. So, super sad. Beautiful. What we're going to do is we're going to continue reading pretty much until the end. Oh, man. Are you ready? Are you ready to finish the book? I see there's 23. We might as well finish. Well, actually,
I'm so excited.
it might have. I think it's going to have a stop at one chapter. Okay. So, oh yeah. So we have this quote, and then we actually wrote it. I'm tired of fighting. He said, our chiefs are killed. Looking Glass is dead. The old men are killed. Oh. So he gives a speech for surrendering. Okay. We are going to explore this meaning of surrender and read more. Okay. So turn to page, what did I say? 108. Okay. If you need the digital book, it is right here. I'm going to start. If you would like to read, go ahead and raise your hand. And I'm going to start, and then I will call on somebody. 108. Okay. Chapter 20. Okay, I'm going to start. And then I'm going to call on Riley, next Brielle, then Nora, then Greta, then Harper, then Iris. Okay. The light faded, and darkness came as I crouched in the gully. The bluecoats banged on the wounds of our warriors and let people bury our dead. They passed out food and blankets. Smoke rose from the cooking fires. The smell of food filled my mouth with water. Sorry. I had not eaten for 3 days. Hungry and cold and sad, I huddled against the dirt wall and shut my eyes. While my father spoke to the generals, Whitebird and a large band of our people had slipped away from the camp and started north. Now they were a long march away. I must start alone for the old lady country, I told myself, but I would wait until the camp was asleep. As night wore on, voices died away. Soon all was quiet. A horse nickered. A man coughed. A baby cried. Nothing more. Still I waited. I waited until the stars moved the space of my 2 hands across the heavens. Then I wrapped a pan, a knife, and a buffalo horn for water in my wedding blanket. I crawled to the end of the gully that was farthest from the camp. As I crept over the dirt, my hand touched something hard and cold. I ran my fingers over the object. It was a rifle. I stuck the barrel through the knot of my bundle and pulled myself out of the gully. The glow of the watchfires outlined the edge of the camp. I crawled to the creek, squeezed through the brush, and let myself over the side. Silent as a snake in a stream, I slid down the bank to the water. Before I could get up, a strong hand clamped over my mouth. Another hand grabbed my arm. "Quiet," whispered a rough voice. Fear struck through me. I did not move. The hands relaxed their grip. "Are you not going home with Chief Joseph?" The voice, gentler now. I peered through the darkness. It was Swan Necklace. He had not surrendered with the warriors. A burst of joy rose in me. "I'm going to Sitting Bull," I said. "I will never go with the white man." Let us start," Swan Necklace said. "Better we die together than to trust ourselves who speak with two tongues." Okay, Riley, go ahead and start reading. As long as you want.
We followed the creek until it turned back toward the camp. We climbed out of our gully and began to walk toward the star. Never moves. Toward the star that never moves. Snow covered the ground. Swan Necklace was still snow covered the ground. Snow covered the ground. Swan Necklace was still striped for battle. He had no moccasins. I untied my bundle and cut strips of buffalo hide from the rope. Swan Necklace wrapped his feet in the soft fur and pulled our wedding blanket around his shoulders. He carried our guns, and I carried the rest. We walked until light streaked the sky. My moccasins were worn, and my feet ached with cold. Swan Necklace had said nothing, but his legs were bare. Swan Necklace found us a protected place out of our hill. I looked for the buffalo chips. They were covered with snow. Hard to spot, but I found enough for a small fire. We rubbed each other's feet to warm them, then huddled beneath the blanket. Heat from the fire spread through us, and we slept until the sun was high. I woke to touch the Swan Necklace's fingers. He brushed my cheek until my eyes opened. "Wake, my love," he said softly. "We must be on our way." It was our first good sleep since our people came through the bare paws. I scrubbed my face with snow to waken me. We had no food. I cut the elk hide fringe from my skirt, and we chewed on the strips as we walked. It fooled our stomachs for a time. The going was hard. Cold wind blew down from the old lady's country. We had to push hard against it. Its icy fingers poked under our robes and made us shiver. It almost dusk when Swan Necklace spotted an antelope searching for grass and snow. He aimed carefully. The shot echoed through the quiet air, and the antelope fell dead. We ran to where it lay, its blood making a scarlet pool on the snow. Swan Necklace knelt and began to skin the antelope. I pulled out my knife and to help him. Suddenly, a hunting party rode over the hill. They galloped towards us. The snow muffled the sound of the horses' hoofs, but the jingle of their bridles sounded loud in my ears. I knew by their rawhide saddles that they were the Assiniboines. My heart beat like a woodpecker pounding on the lodgepole. The Assiniboines were a fierce tribe and made many wars. They had never been our friends. Were they helping the Bluecoats as the Cheyennes and the Crows and the Flatheads had done? The horses stopped beside us. There were 5 riders and 5 extra horses. There had been a long hunt, and the 2 of the horses carried meat and hides. Their leader raised his arm in greeting. He had been on the earth as snows as my father.
Okay, Brielle.
Strips of enemy showed white in his braids. He bedded Monza. What does that say?
Moccasins?
Moccasins were made of soft elk skin. And what does that say?
Beneath?
Beneath? Oh my god. He saddled saddled with a fine blanket of red wool and oldered skin. It was chief's blanket. Across the saddle blade an old musket, the kind of most warriors used before we picked up the rifles on the battlefield. The other 4 men had no guns. They carried bows made from the horns of mountain sheep. They must have traded with our people for them, because only Nimipu made such bows. The leader made signs to say that the tribes were bothered. He touched his chest and said his name was Red Elk. We signed back, and that we were friends. We said our names. We signed that we were feeling from the Bluecoats. And on the way to join Sitting Bull, Red Elk nodded. We spoke a few words in our language with signs. In words, he told us that the hunting prairie was on its way to a nearby Assiniboine village. We were welcome to join them. His words were good, but I did not trust him. When Red Elk saw the fine rifles that had once been loaned to white soldiers, his eyes glanced. His eyes followed them as we put them across our saddles. His eyes staged on them all the way to the Assiniboine village.
Okay, Nora, chapter 21.
Red Elk rode into the village. Teepees clustered near a stream, and fires burned bright beside it. A vast herd of ponies was tethered beyond the teepees. Women, children, and old men shouted greetings. They came to look at the load of meat, and they had came to look at us. They stared hard. A child poked Swan Necklace's foot wrappings with a curious finger. A woman touched my elk-skin shirt. The leather was white as snow, and it had taken many suns to sew on the blue quilt. She rubbed the skirt between her fingers, then frowned when she saw the ragged edges. I was glad that I had cut away the fringe to stay our hunger. It saved my skirt. Red Elk motioned to Swan Necklace and me. We got off the horses and followed him to his teepee. Children pointed at us as we walked through the village. Dogs barked. I wondered what the Assiniboine would do with us. At Red Elk's teepee, a lighting dove, his wife, was cooking. She was a small woman and moved quickly like a bird. She speared a chunk of antelope meat and placed it over the fire. In a large pot, goose mush bubbled. The good smell made me feel weak. Swan Necklace ate with Red Elk and Charging Hawk, his son. A lighting dove and I brought them food. Charging Hawk was a young warrior. He had more snows than Swan Necklace, but he did not have a wife. He was short and thick through the chest. Pieces of shell from the land of the great waters gleamed green and blue and silver in his braids. He wore fringed leggings and a buckskin shirt trimmed with elk's teeth. On each arm were many copper bracelets.
Okay, freeze really quick. What do you think they mean, land of great waters?
It's because it says it
like
here.
Where do we have great waters in the middle of the United States?
Superior, Lake Superior.
Ah, we've got Lake Superior, we have Lake Michigan, Lake Huron.
Been to Superior because my grandma lives on it.
Yeah, so they had
To Lake Superior on a camping trip.
wonderful. So they had
So they're in Minnesota, probably.
It could be Minnesota, probably some Canada, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Yep, so those big, great waters. Okay, go ahead and you can keep reading if you want, Nora. Sorry for interrupting.
Red Elk told Swan Necklace that we were a long day's walk from the old lady's country. If we started before the first sun, we would be there in darkness. Swan Necklace nodded. He used signs to tell Red Elk about the surrender, and Red Elk said he had seen our people being a long march toward the rising sun. Begin a long march toward the rising sun. After the men had eaten, a whiting dove and I made our meal. My hunger was so great that I ate with unseemly haste. I saw her watching me and ducked my head with shame. Then I chewed slowly until my hunger was gone. A whiting dove looked at my worn moccasins and pulled a new pair from a pack. I thanked her with signs, and she patted me on the shoulder. She seemed kind.
Okay, Greta. And then
Charging Hawk gave Swan Necklace a pair of moccasins and an old shirt and leggings. When Swan Necklace put them on, the sleeves barely covered his elbows, and the leggings ended just below his knees. Red Elk and his son laughed at the sight. I was beginning to forget my fear and slept well that night in the tent of Red Elk. The morning sky was streaked with red. We started off before the sun. A lighting dove gave us a packet of food, and Red Elk gave us 10 bullets for our rifles. We had walked only a short way from the village when I heard a footstep behind us. That was all. There was one more step, then a knife flashed, and Saw Necklace laid on the ground with a deep gash in his neck. I turned quickly and saw Charging Hawk wiping the blood from his knife. My rifle was not loaded. Before I could pull the knife from my belt, I felt a noose slip around my neck. It drew tight and the world went black. I opened my eyes. Above me was the wall of Red Elk's teepee. My ankles were tied together and so were my wrists. I looked around. A lighting dove sat next to the opening. She was sewing red and blue beads on a moccasin. I shut my eyes and pretended I was not awake. I thought hard. I remembered the look in Red Elk's eyes when he saw our rifles. I knew Swan Necklace was dead. I wondered why I still lived, but I did not care. It made no difference now if they killed me. The shadows were long when a lighting dove shook me. I looked at her with eyes of hate, but said nothing. She untied my ankles and wrists and let me down into the stream. I could not run away because she held fast to the rawhide around my arm. When I was ready to leave, she touched me over my heart and touched her eyes and then her heart. She signed that she felt my grief. Her fingers were gentle and so were her eyes. Tears spilled out of my eyes and ran down my cheeks. I could not speak. A lighting dove led me to the place where Swan Necklace lay dead. She signed that I might bury him. I wrapped my love in our wedding blanket. On his chest I placed his war whistle, which had protected him in battle, but did not save him from death. I laid him in a shallow grave and chanted a song of mourning. The death of Swan Necklace had taken my heart away. In my breast, where my heart once beat, was a piece of cold stone.
okay, Harper.
Did Swan Necklace have to die?
I'm sorry. Harper, do you want
Right? I'm mad now. I'm just mad.
Harper, do you
For
want
7 sons,
to keep reading? Yeah.
for 7 sons I stayed in the teepee of Red Elk. I was not permitted to go outside unless a lighting dove held the rawhide lead. At night I was tethered to a teepee pole like a horse. The rifles that Red Elk had taken from us were always before my eyes. He wrapped the barrels in antelope hide and placed them against the wall of the teepee. All day I looked at them, and all day I thought of the treachery that had led to the death of Swan Necklace. At first I did not know why my life was spared. Red Elk paid no attention to me. He looked through me and never spoke. A lighting dove was kind, but never asked me to work. Yet a captive woman is not allowed to be idle. I listened to their talk. After a few suns, some of their words had meaning. I did not let them know how many Anishinaabeg words I had learned. From their talk at night, I discovered that Charging Hawk once had a wife. She had died 3 snows before. She was big with a child, and her baby died with her. For 3 sons Charging Hawk had grieved and looked at no other woman, even though Red Elk had urged him to take a new wife. Now Charging Hawk had plans for me. He found me more pleasing than any of the Anishinaabe women. Their words told me why Charging Hawk spent much time in the teepee, something warriors do not do in good weather. He sat on the side making arrows and watching me out of the corner of his eye. If I stared at him, he grinned foolishly. Soon, Charging Hawk had filled the quiver with arrows, each one as long as his arm, to the tips of his fingers. I could tell they were not war arrows because they had narrow blades so that they could be pulled out of an animal's flesh and used again. Arrows meant for battle had short, broad tips with hooks on them so that they struck tightly and tore the flesh when pulled. On the seventh sun, Charging Hawk oiled his hair with bear grease and wrapped his braids in otter fur. From his ears hung ornaments of polished metal. He put on his finest clothes. His buckskin shirt was decorated with green porcupine quills. From his shoulder straps hung strands of hair from the scalps he had taken.
Okay, Iris, do you want to keep reading?
Yeah. On the back was painted a red hand, the sign that he had killed another warrior in hand-to-hand combat. At his throat was a necklace of enormous bear claws. From my seat beside the fire, I watched Charging Hawk place a fox skin on a pole some distance away. He pulled to a clearing on the other side of the teepee. When he was certain, I looked at him. He pulled a handful of arrows from the quiver at his belt. There were as many arrows as fingers on his two hands. Quickly he shot the arrows with hands moving so fast that they blurred. Before the first had hit the fox skin, the last was moving through the air. All the arrows hit the skin in a spot no larger than my hand. Without speaking, Charging Hawk plucked the arrows from the pole and marched off. He had shown me his skills as a marksman. I could be certain that those in the teepee would never want for meat. That night a light dove told me that Charging Hawk wished to marry me. She said that I was lucky. The most captive women became slaves, but as the wife of Charging Hawk, I would be an Assiniboine. Charging Hawk was a great warrior and a skillful hunter, but I felt only hatred for him. Now I must become his wife? After that day, a lighting dove gave me work to do, but she always worked beside me. She watched me closely and showed me the Assiniboine way to roast roots and dry meat. She showed me how they stored their dry foods for winter. She did many things in the Nimiku way, but some were different.
You're muted.
Anybody else want to continue reading?
I can, if no one else wants to.
Okay, Riley, go ahead and start, and then looks like Nora raised her hand, Nora raised her hand again. So go ahead and start.
I learned how to cook meat as the Assiniboines did. Lighting Dove showed me how to dig a hole in the ground and line it with a rawhide. She filled the hole with water and put a big chunk of buffalo in it. Into the water she dropped large red hot stones from the fire. She kept changing the stones until the water boiled and the meat cooked. Now I knew why her people were called Assiniboines, stone boilers. Sun passed and winter came. The snow lay deep on the ground. A lighting dove helped me make a dress of elk skin, like my old dress. It was white and a fringe hung from the skirt, but my old dress had a long fringed sleeves and beautiful sky blue quills across the shoulders. The new dress had no sleeves. Instead, there was a beaded skin cape and covered the tops of my arms. From the beneath the cape hung my ermine tails. The soft fur would keep me warm in the coldest weather. I also had white leggings and moccasins. As we worked, a lighting dove told me about her son. He was so swift, she said, that he could run down a buffalo without a horse. He was so strong that he could lift a grizzly bear above his head. He was so brave that he did not hide behind rocks or trees in battle, but rode up to the enemy and dared them to fire at him.
Nora, do you want to continue?
I bowed my head and kept silent. He was also a man without shame, I thought. He had eaten with Swan Necklace and slept in the same teepee, yet he killed his guest to get a rifle. When the dress was finished, a lighting dove called me to the fire. She motioned for me to sit down. Then she took a bone needle and held it in the flame until it glowed. Swiftly, she grabbed my ear and thrust the needle through. I screamed with pain and grabbed for my ear. A lighting dove caught my hand. She shook her head and motioned for me to be still. The 3 bright drops of blood fell on my fingers. A lighting dove placed a greased stick in the hole to keep it open. Then she did the same to the other ear. This time I sat quietly and did not make a sound, even when the hot needle went through my ear. With words and signs, a lighting dove told me that the Assiniboines had holes in their ears. When the holes were healed, I could marry Charging Hawk. My ears healed too fast. Several times I picked at the wounds to keep them raw. In spite of all I could do, the redness disappeared, and the flesh was smooth. The Assiniboines held a great feast to celebrate the wedding of their chief's son. Fires blazed in the camp. Drums beat, whistles shrilled, and flutes made soft noises. After the feasting and dancing and singing, Charging Hawk and I would go to a new teepee. The skins that covered it were painted with buffalo and butterflies, kingfishers and antelope. When I looked at it, I thought of Swan Necklace, and my heart was sad. My sorrow did not show. I put on my new clothes. From my ears hung bangles of silver and blue stones, brought from lands far to the south. A lighting dove said they had cost Charging Hawk 3 horses. Because I had no parents to exchange gifts with them, Red Elk and a lighting dove stood on either side of me and asked for the Great Spirit's blessing. At my feet, Charging Hawk laid a beautiful ermine blanket, as white as snow and soft as a cloud. No one in the tribe had such a beautiful blanket. "This is our marriage blanket," said Charging Hawk. "It is beautiful," I said, though my lips were so stiff it was hard to form the Assiniboine words. Charging Hawk grasped my hand while Red Elk spoke of the wife's duty to her husband and the husband's duty to his wife. He asked the Great Spirit to send us many sons. The men nodded and the women smiled. Someone filled a stone pipe with tobacco and passed it around. Each man took a deep breath and handed it to his neighbor.
Okay. Charging Hawk drew deeply on the pipe and blew out the smoke. Then he got to his feet and began to dance. He sang the beat of the drum and danced about the circle of seated men. He grasped one of the warriors by the hand and pulled him to his feet. Together they danced and sang. One by one, the other men joined them. At last, all the men were dancing and singing. The women clapped their hands. The dancing lasted far into the night. Smoke from the pipes and the fires filled the cold night air. The smoke was so thick that it was hard to see across the circle of dancers. No one paid any attention to me. I waited. When the dancing grew wild and the voices loud, I snatched the ermine blanket and crept away from the circle. I crawled through the line of teepees, stopped only to take a rifle and bullets from the teepee of Red Elk. Once I had reached the edge of the village, I got to my feet and ran faster than I had ever run before. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the only thing you have to do left for the day is we're going to do this aha moment on Monday, so I'm going to move this to a different day.
Finish it.
We're not going to be able to finish it. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to move this aha moment to Monday, but I still want you to do the day 19 question set. Okay? Or actually, it'll say, I think, lesson 23 question set. So if you look at it, we have questions based off a couple of the stories that we read. Okay, so we're looking at what does it mean? Okay, what is some evidence? Okay, and how does it differ? Okay, so there's only 5 questions. So hopefully you read the chapters from before, and I would like you to finish this for homework. Okay.
I have a question.
What's your question?
Can we read the last chapter today?
If you would like to, you can, but I will read it in class on Monday, probably. Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Because it's like just left me on a cliffhanger. I've got to read it.
I know, we're so
Thank
close.
Bye.
So
Yes.
close.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
Thank you.